I think the first is competition. I think you've got competition amongst the existing participants within the banking sector, and also you've got competition of new entrants, disruptors coming into the banking sector. I think it's fair to say there are a lot of banks in the GCC. And to some extent you would argue the GCC is somewhat overbanked. And I think competition is going to play a very key role over the next 3 to 5 years in terms of driving significant change in the banking sector, because banks as they are today will not be the banks of 3 years or 5 years' time. I think the second challenge, and it's very much linked to the first, and actually all of them are sort of overlap in a way, but it's linked to the first, is capital. Banks need capital to operate. Banks have a requirement by their regulators to have a certain amount of capital in order to do business. Capital is hard to come by. It's a precious resource. And I think banks are going to have to be very selective about how they deploy capital going forward. And what does that mean? Coming back to the competition piece, they're going to need to deploy capital in a way that's efficient and effective, such that they're utilising that capital in a way which generates the best returns for their shareholders. And the challenge with capital is the reality is it forces you down 3 routes. You've got to be very selective how you deploy your existing capital, and that may mean you need to curtail certain businesses and rationalise certain activities. You may need to go to the market and raise capital through a rights issue in some shape or form, and that presents its own challenges, because if you go to the market through a rights issue, a lot of the GCC banks have very large shareholdings which are owned by certain families, etc. Are those families going to be in a position to take up those rights issues? And the third way you can go about raising capital is sell assets. But do you necessarily want to be in a position where actually you're having to sell some of your crown jewels in order to allow you to survive going forward? And the third big challenge, and this isn't unique to the banking sector, I think it's across all sectors, is cybercrime. I think cybercrime is becoming something that's very headliney, but is very real. Cyber criminals don't respect borders, don't respect jurisdiction. They're not limited geographically in any shape or form. They can attack from any part in the world to another part in the world. And I think what's really important for the GCC banking sector is that we ensure from a cybercrime perspective, we put the necessary investment into the financial services structure, and the participants invest sufficiently within their own organisations to ensure that from a cyber security perspective, and therefore prevention of cyber crime, we're able to protect the financial services sector going forward.